Hello everyone, you already know what this video is. I am going to read The Hunger Games for the first time in 2024. If you would ask me how I have not read The Hunger Games until now, I don't know. I truly don't know. I have not watched the movies, I did not read the books. The only thing that I know is that Jennifer Lawrence is playing, I think she's the main character in the movies, if I'm not mistaken. While preparing for this video, I went on Goodreads. I saw that the first one, The Hunger Games, was released in 2008. And to me that was mind-boggling because I thought this is like 2013, kind of that period of time. But no, this book was released like 16 years ago, which is insane that we are in 2024 and this was released in 2008. Like it seems so long ago, and I'm a bit scared that this is not gonna hold up, but we'll see. We'll see. I think this is a dystopia and also has like sci-fi elements, although I might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure it's a dystopia, so that's kind of everything that I know at this specific moment in time about this series. I don't know in this moment if I will read also the prequel, which is the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I guess you'll find out by the end of this video. I am going to start reading now. I got The Hunger Games on my Kobo and let's start. Let's begin. Also, this is going to be spoilery, but I assume if you're watching this video, you probably already read the books. I don't know, maybe don't watch this video if you didn't and you don't want to be spoiled, I guess. Okay, see you soon. Okay, this is 15 minutes later. I have finished only the first chapter, and right from the get-go, I can say that I was right in saying that this is a dystopia. We are following our main character. She is kind of giving us this history lesson on her world that she lives in. So basically a while ago there were these natural disasters like fires, storms, drought. The land was divided in these 13 districts, but there was also an uprising. 12 of the districts were just conquered and the 13th one was completely obliterated. So now the government, in order to prevent another uprising, is hosting these Hunger Games every year. They are choosing a boy and a girl from each district to participate in these Hunger Games. So 24 people in total. They are locked in this outdoor arena, and they are fighting to death until the last one standing wins the Hunger Games. By winning the Hunger Games, the district that the winner is from will have a year of gifts, which are consisting mainly of food. The winner of the Hunger Games can provide for their district. Also in the first chapter, we are introduced to this reaping system, which is kind of how the people that are participating in the Hunger Games are chosen. So from the age of 12, you will have your name written down for the Hunger Games one time, and as you grow older, like when you are 13, you will have your name written two times, and so on and so forth. But also, if you are coming from a very poor family, as is the case for Katniss, you can write down your name one more time in order to receive a year's supply of grains and I think also oil. Katniss is 16 in the present timeline, and she has her name written down 20 times. So she's very concerned that there's a pretty high chance for her to be chosen to participate in the Hunger Games in that year. But the first chapter ends on a massive cliffhanger because it is not Katniss who is chosen, it is her sister Prim. I am very intrigued, and this first chapter got me hooked, so I will go back to read more and will update the vlog when something massive happens. Okay, it is later in the day. I want to light up a candle, and we are going to talk about, I don't know if you can see, anyway. Oop, yep. These types of candles are my favorite because they have this wood wick and it just sounds like crackling fire. Let's talk about the Hunger Games because I made quite a progress with the first book. I have read 35% off of the Hunger Games, which is the first part that is called the tributes. I made some notes and I will try to just walk you through what happened so far. So I think when I last updated you, I said that the person that was chosen to be the first tribute from District 12 was Katniss's sister. Her name is Prim. But what we didn't know at that time is that there was a precedent of people who volunteered themselves to take the place of the person that was chosen by that lottery. Obviously, Katniss is volunteering herself and they agree to that. And then the second person who gets chosen is Peeta. Now, we have not met Peeta previously, but we get this backstory. Actually, Katniss knows Peeta because when she was 11, I think, Peeta helped her feed her family with some bread from his parents' bakery. And she has not forgotten that, but in the same time, she doesn't really know Peeta's motivations going into the Hunger Games, right? I kind of got a feeling from the first time that Peeta is going to be a love interest, and later on it was kind of confirmed that Peeta had a crush on Katniss. Now, I think this is going to be a love triangle. I'm not sure if that boy back home who she used to hunt with is going to come in the picture again, but based on what I've read so far, Peeta is obviously infatuated with Katniss and she doesn't really know what to do with her feelings for Peeta because they're in the Hunger Games together and at some point they will have to kill each other. So that's that. Also, before they go to the capital, while they're still in District 12, each tribute gets an hour to kind of like say goodbye to their friends and family. And Madge, who is the daughter of this high up guy in the District 12, Madge is gifting Katniss her pin that has a mockingjay on it, the same thing that is displayed on the cover of this book. And we get a really interesting backstory about these birds. The Capitol created these genetically mutated birds in order to spy on their enemies, and how it works is the birds are able to replicate human conversation like words, speech, and the Capitol will later record those birds, and in this way they were able to kind of like get a step ahead of their enemies. But those birds did not go extinct. In fact, they mated with another bird, and they were able to not only sing bird songs but also human ones. We also find out that there are sponsors for each tribute, and each tribute is also marked with a note from 1 to 12 by some game makers. Peter gets 8 and Katniss gets 11 because she was the last one or second to last to kind of showcase her abilities in front of these game makers, and they were kind of ignoring her. She was very pissed. She's shooting an arrow at their table, and she shot the arrow at the pig that was on the table, and the pig had an apple in his mouth. She was shooting the arrow at that apple, and obviously she shot the apple like straight ahead, so the game makers didn't really say anything to her. She just like shot the arrow and then ran away because she was really scared that they are going to kill her or like punish her family or stuff like that because she disrespected them. In chapter 9, up until this point, Peeta and Katniss were training together, but now Peeta requested to be trained separately, and obviously Katniss feels very betrayed by this thing. It is discussed upon the fact that in the capital, people, are getting aesthetic surgeries and are getting a lot of treatments and stuff done to their face, their body, in order to maintain this idea of youth and of the fact that they are not aging. Whereas in the District 12, where Katniss and Peeta are coming from, aging is a sign of, you were strong enough to survive and you were strong enough to be able to age gracefully. So I thought that's really interesting. This book was written a while ago, and this is a discussion that is still very relevant to this day. So I was quite impressed by that, and I thought I should mention it. I don't know if I specified this, but the tributes have also these interviews that are televised in the whole country. Like, everyone is watching these interviews. They kind of have to impress the audience and the sponsors in order to get as much sponsors as possible for the Hunger Games. And Katniss is very worried about this because she doesn't know how to position herself. Her interview goes really, really well, but what's interesting, at the end of chapter 9, Peeta has the last interview and he says that he doesn't have a girlfriend, but there is this girl who he always had a crush on. The interviewer is like, well, you can win the Hunger Games and in this way you can impress her. And he's like, I don't think that's going to work because she came to the capital with me. He's talking about Katniss. And this is how chapter 9 ends. This is how the first part of the book ends. I am so excited to see what happens next. Also, the light is getting progressively darker because it's kind of late, so I will see how much I will be able to read tonight. Oh my god, my face is so greasy. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I will update you probably tomorrow morning if I read more this night. Yeah, let's see what happens next in the Hunger Games. Hi, good morning everyone. It is the next day. It is 10 in the morning, and yesterday night I have managed to read the second part of the Hunger Games, and this morning I woke up pretty early. I think I woke up at 5 or something. I read the third part, which is the last one, and I finished the book. I finished the Hunger Games, and I also started the second one, which is Catching Fire. So let me first update you guys on the things that happened in the Hunger Games from when I last talked to you. So it is heavily hinted upon the fact that these games are very focused on appearances. It doesn't really matter what happens. If the capital looks good, it's fine, and this is obviously their end goal. They are inserting trackers in the arms of the contestants so that they can track them in the area where the games are held, and also they are broadcasting this to live TV, which is very... I never watched Survivor, but I think it's kind of the same vibe, so that's interesting. Katniss is having doubts on following Haymitch's instructions, which is kind of her trainer, quote unquote, because he won the Hunger Games back in his day, and being from District 12, he is training and mentoring Katniss and Peeta. And he said to Katniss that, like, no matter what she does, as soon as the games begin, she should not reach, for the weapons or for the food or whatever, because she can provide for herself, but she should go explore the area and make sure that she finds water, because that's very important, because otherwise she will not be able to survive. She has a slight moment of hesitation. It doesn't go as planned. She is running around in the woods. She doesn't have water. She has some crackers and some weird sunglasses that are not protecting her from the sun. She doesn't really know what to do other than the fact that she needs to find water. Peeta is in cahoots with the careers, who are these players that all of their lives were trained to play the game. Katniss thinks that Peeta betrayed her, but we will later find out that that's not the case. Another very dystopian topic is the fact that these careers have an unfair advantage in the game because it is illegal to train for the games, like specifically for the games, and obviously no one can prove that they were trained specifically for the Hunger Games, but they are representing this unfair advantage in the games so far. Later on, after a couple of days, Katniss manages to find a body of water, and also she is spotted by the careers. She is going up in a tree, and this other girl who is from District 11, her name is Rue, she is showing her something that's up the tree, and when she looks up is this nest of, I forget the exact term, but they are killer bees, and if you kind of hunt them or disrupt them or just mess with them, they will track you down and they will kill you. There's that pink venom, get him, get him, get him. She is unleashing these killer bees on the careers, and because they are stung by the bees and they are rushing towards a body of water to kind of like repel the bees, she is able to steal some arrows and the bow that she spotted from the very beginning of the game, so she now has a weapon. Later on, Rue is making an appearance again. Katniss is proposing an alliance to Rue, and Rue knows she can trust Katniss because she has the Mockingjay pin that Madge gifted her back at home, and Rue is opening up, and she is telling us that back home she has all of these mockingjays who are her friends, and they sing together, which was a really nice scene to see in this very cutthroat environment. They are helping each other out. Katniss is feeding Rue because she has bow and arrows and she can hunt down all of these animals in the woods. They come up with this plan to kind of strip the careers of their provisions, of their food provisions specifically, because this is kind of their game plan, and it always has been in prior games as well, to just have all of the provisions, all of the food provisions, so that they can sustain themselves longer in the games. And Katniss comes up with this idea, but what if we would steal all of their provisions? They can't really hunt animals, and feed themselves, so they would probably be very impacted by this. And the problem is that there's only one person who is guarding their provisions, but it doesn't really make sense, because why would only one person take care of guarding the whole provisions of these guys who are very cutthroat? So Rue is creating a diversion by lighting up fires in other areas of the forest, and Katniss is able to destroy all of their provisions. Now, because they had to split in order to pull off this stunt, Katniss is kind of worried for Rue because she is not back yet at their meeting point, and all of a sudden she hears this song from a Mockingjay, and she thinks, oh yeah, this is the signal, like Rue is fine, but then she hears a scream, and lo and behold, Rue gets murdered, and it's a very emotional scene in the book where Rue makes Katniss promise that she will win the whole thing, and Katniss is very taken aback by this because all she's thinking is that that could be her sister, you know, who was getting killed because her sister was supposed to participate in the games. Right at the end of the second part, which is called The Games, there's this broadcast in the whole area of the game, and the Capitol is saying that the rules of the games are changed and there can be two winners of the Hunger Games if two people from the same district are surviving, are the last ones standing. So how convenient for Katniss and Peeta. How convenient. But this is the end of the second part in the book, and then we start the last part, which is the victor. Now, because of this announcement, Katniss is thinking that she needs to find Peeta because they have to obviously make an alliance and they can both win and they can both, end up alive by the end of the games, which is really important. She finds Peeta, but he is gravely injured, and in order to heal him, she has to participate in this kind of get-together with all of the players, but obviously that can be very dangerous because they will try to kill each other. So she's trying to think how to act on this because Peeta obviously doesn't want for her to go to this meeting spot with the rest of the players. She almost gets herself killed, but this other player who was also from District 11 is kind of letting her go only because she was friends with Rue. Katniss survives this. She goes back to Peeta and he is healed. Also, at this point in the story, Peeta reveals that his dad confessed to him that he was in love with Katniss's mom and they were supposed to get married, but then Katniss's mom fell in love with who turned out to be her dad because he could sing. This book has this leitmotif of singing, and these birds who are creatures that breeded together. It's kind of like an interspecies thing between a mockingbird and a jabberjay, and they created this mockingjays who could create their own song. It's very prevalent in this one, and also from what I see in the next book, which is Catching Fire. Some shenanigans are happening, but the important thing is that Peeta and Katniss are the last two players standing in the games and they should be the winners. But in the last moment, the Capitol announces that, oh, we can't really give you to the win, so you just have to fight until one of you is dead, obviously to create engagement and to be this like super popular moment in the game's history because the Capitol wants to manipulate the games and the outcome of them. So Katniss comes up with this idea for both of them to eat poisonous berries because she's thinking that the Capitol needs a victor, so they can't let them both die. So she's like, let's eat these berries in the same time, we will both die, but hopefully the Capitol realizes that they need a victor and they will save us. And when they try to eat the berries, the plan works, and then the Capitol is like, oh, no, you should stop, like you're both the winners, it's fine. But obviously the Capitol is seeing this as a sign of rebellion and they are mad with Katniss for pulling this stunt. So she's thinking what the future will hold and what will happen to her and Peeta for pulling off this stunt. On their way back home, Katniss is confessing to Peeta that all of their kind of love story throughout the game was in fact an act. This is very heartbreaking to Peeta because he thought that it was real and he is heartbroken towards the end of the book. So yeah, this is how the Hunger Games ends. I read a couple of chapters from the first part of Catching Fire and we are presented with their lives after they won the games. Katniss's family is living in this winner's village and in a new home, but Katniss is still very attached to the house that she grew up in and she's kind of living mostly there. One day as she's preparing to go on this tour, she is going home to her mom's house house and she finds there Captain Snow. Captain Snow is hinting upon the fact that he knows that she and Peeta are not actually in love and it was all an act. But Snow also knows about the fact that Katniss and Gale kissed in the woods right after she came back home. And Snow is like, well, if you want your boy toy to survive, you should play this off with Peeta in the public eye, and you should play this very well. You have to convince me that you are actually in love, or else I will kill Gale. Also, in the beginning of the second book, we are getting a glimpse into Katniss's relationship with her mom. Her dad died in an explosion in the mines, and afterwards her mom was having these depressive episodes because she obviously lost the love of her life, and Katniss was resenting her mother because her being in this very poor mental state, she was not able to provide for her daughters. So Katniss had to take upon this role on providing for her family even before she turned 12 and she could kind of wager her name in the urn for the Hunger Games. Right now she's trying to mend her relationship with her mother, and she's trying to come to terms with the fact that at the end of the day, this is her mother and she did the best that she could. On their way to District 11, where they're starting their tour, Katniss is having all of these thoughts. She's very uncertain on what the future will hold, and in the train Haymitch is saying to her that this is not only for this year. They have to fabricate this relationship or hold this facade for all of their lives, because even when the next Hunger Games will start, her and Peeta will become trainers for the next group of people selected for the Hunger Games. So she doesn't really know how the future will look like, and she's kind of contemplating on the fact that even though she doesn't want a family, she doesn't want kids, she would still like the option to be with Gale. They arrive in District 11 and they have to make this public speech about the games and praising the Capitol. This speech is provided by the Capitol, like they're not free to say whatever they want, and Peeta is saying in his speech that he will donate a month from the winner's earnings each year for District 11, and this is like a massive gift on their part because District 11 is very poor as well, and a month of winnings can sustain very easily a year of just food supplies for these people. Katniss doesn't really say anything in the speech, only because she just wants to get it over with. She's very emotional upon the fact that this is Rue's district, and when Peeta finishes with his speech, she is seeing this old lady in the crowd that looks at her very disappointed, and then she's like, oh wait, I would also like to say something, and she is speaking upon the fact that the tribute from District 11 spared her life and that she has all of the respect for him, and also she's talking about her relationship with Rue, that they helped each other a lot in the games, and that she kind of saw Rue as her little sister and stuff like that. An old man in the crowd is like very touched by this, and he is saluting her with 3 fingers, I think it was said in the book, as a kind of respect for her and for what she went through. And the Capitol just shoots this man. They're going in all the districts with the tour, and they are also stopping in the Capitol. They're having a feast, and there's so much food that they cannot literally eat anymore. On the tables there are these bottles, and they don't really know what's in them until someone says that, like, oh, you shouldn't drink that here, you should go to the bathroom. And Katniss is like, oh, why? Will this make me puke? And they're like, yeah, how do you think we can eat this much? We just eat until we cannot anymore, we drink this, we puke, and we start eating again, which is something just so mind-boggling, because these people are only eating and eating and eating for their pleasure, whereas all of these other districts who are very poor are struggling to get by day. And this just intensifies Katniss's and Peeta's hatred for the capital even more, because they grew up very poor. They sometimes didn't have anything to eat, and these people are just living in this excess all the time, which is obviously a commentary on today's society and capitalism and all that. When they are back home in District 12, Katniss becomes really close to Madge. Madge is the daughter of the mayor, and it's also the person who gifted her the Mockingjay pin. Katniss is seeing on the mayor's TV this announcement that was not intended for the masses. It was only intended for like the very high up people. This message on TV saying that there's an uprising starting in District 8, and obviously she's very concerned by this, because even though this is a good sign, people are, rebelling against the capital, there's also a lot of uncertainty there. She goes to meet with Gale in like a secluded place because she doesn't want Snow to spy on them, and she is thinking that she wants to run away with him. Obviously, she's thinking about taking her family, his family, also Peeta and his family. So they're having this argument on why she wants to take Peeta as well, and because she's very angry, she is saying to Gale that there's this uprising that just started in District 8. But yeah, this is where I stopped with Catching Fire. I want to prepare some breakfast, and then I will read some more, and then I will update you later on with Catching Fire. It is later in the day. I have finished book number 2, Catching Fire, and my god, I thought it couldn't get any better than the book 1, but honestly, I feel like I enjoyed this a tiny bit more, and that's not a lot to say because I love the first book. Things don't go that well for Gale because later on he is whipped in front of everyone from District 12, so that was not great. Katniss's mom is trying to prepare these medications for him in order to alleviate the pain, but she doesn't have enough of it. And Madge, who is the daughter of the mayor, who becomes really close friends with Katniss after she first participates in the Hunger Games after she's back home, Madge is providing them with the necessary medication in order for Gale to don't feel pain and to heal quicker. And also because now Gale is injured, Katniss is kind of realizing that she has feelings for him, and she also is really considering how or what she can do in order to start this revolution in their own district. The things don't really look great for the people in District 12 because the mines are closed for a couple of weeks. There's a lot of poverty and starvation, and people are writing their names multiple times for the Hunger Games thing. And there's also a delay with that because usually if they will sign up their names multiple times for the Hunger Games, they will receive a year's worth supply of grains and oil and stuff like that. Katniss comes across two runaways from District 8 where the revolution and the uprising already started, and they're saying to her that they believe that the District 13, the one that we learn, I think, from the first chapters of book 1, that it was completely obliterated, it doesn't exist anymore. They are saying that that's not true, and District 13 is still on the map, is still functioning, because the Capitol is using this recording of the District 13 when they're talking about it on TV. They are using always the same recording, and they kind of figured this out because there's this mockingjay that always is in the background. Also, when these two runaways are talking to Katniss, they are saying to her that the mockingjay sort of became this symbol of rebellion and uprising and, hope for the people that were ostracized by the Capitol. It is also talked upon the fact that that year's Hunger Games were the 75th anniversary of the games, so each 25 years they were doing this kind of spin on the games. Snow is saying that in this year, because it's the 75th anniversary, they are not going to choose from the people that have their names written out for the games, but rather they will choose from the existing victors of the previous games. And the catch is because in District 12 there are only 3 people that won the games: Katniss, Peeta, and also Haymitch. So the chances of her getting selected to participate again in the Hunger Games is like 100% because she's the only girl and the only variable is either, Haymitch or Peeta. And obviously Peeta will volunteer himself to compete in the Hunger Games because he wants Katniss to be safe. The selection of the players is happening. Obviously Katniss and Peeta are competing for District 12 and they are immediately squirted in the Capitol. They don't even get a chance to say goodbye to their loved ones, their families, and so on. On their way to the Capitol, they are revisiting all of this footage from the older games because they want to see what is the strategy of the other players that got selected, and they are also seeing the footage of the 50th anniversary of the games when Haymitch won, and they are very soon realizing that the Mockingjay pin that she has, she already knew that this is from Madge's aunt, but she didn't know who her aunt was. Basically, her aunt was also a very good friend of her mother, and seeing this, she is even more moved and impressed that she has this pin. They are trying to decide what alliances to form once the games begin, and they are reaching the conclusion that they don't want to form alliances with anyone in the games. Also, when the time comes for the game makers to rate them on their abilities, both Peeta and Katniss have a note of 12, which is the highest one, and this is obviously in order to put a target on their backs. They're having these interviews and Cinna is designing this gown for Katniss, and it is the same gown that Captain Snow wanted Katniss to wear at her wedding with Peeta. I don't think I mentioned this previously, but basically Peeta asked Katniss to marry him in order to be very convincing for Captain Snow and their whole we are madly in love thing. But what Cinna did with the dress is that in the previous book, in the previous Hunger Games, Katniss kind of did this spin on stage and everyone was super impressed by what she wore. And this time around, she's also doing the spinning on stage when she is interviewed, and all of a sudden when she's kind of lifting her arms, the whole dress catches on fire, and it is revealed then that she is looking like a mockingjay, which again is a symbol of the rebellion in the uprising. Everyone is obviously so stoked and impressed about this reveal because she has like a black gown full of feathers. She also has wings. She truly looks like a mockingjay. Now, during his interview, Peta is shocking everyone by saying that even though they didn't get to have an official ceremony, they were already married because they did this ritual that the people in District 12 did. And then he's also announcing on live TV that Katniss is pregnant with his baby. And that's not true. He's just like doing that in order to put the Capitol on the spot, because the Capitol kind of chose to do this thing this year where they're choosing from the earlier victors, and Peta is kind of playing on the fact that, oh, this is really cruel, like I'm so sad that we didn't get more time together and now she's pregnant. By competing in these games we are endangering our future child and so on. Like, it's very on the nose, and it's a commentary on how the Capitol is very cruel and how they don't really care about their people. Right before the games start, the Capitol is torturing Cena for designing that dress and for putting them on the spot on live TV. As the games start, Peta again is gravely injured. All of these alliances are formed, and a lot of questionable things are happening that we don't truly understand until the end of the book. There's this kind of there's this field around the area, and there's two people who can see it or sense it or know that it's there, and they are secretly working in order to deactivate it, but we don't really understand why. Every hour in the game, these deadly forces are unleashed upon the contestants, and it takes a while for them to realize that this is every hour, because there are like chimes from midnight until later in the day. They are kind of working to guess where the next disaster is going to happen so that they are not in that specific area when it happens. This thing with the whole like hourly thing, the whole clock, was hinted upon when Katniss and Peta were participating in the feast in the Capitol at the beginning of this book, and there was also this guy who was the main game maker for this year's Hunger Games, and his name is Plutarch, and he had this watch with a mockingbird kind of coming out of it. All of a sudden there's this scream and it sounds like Prim. So obviously Katniss is very deranged and just super anxious about this because she thinks that her sister is in danger. But we learn that it is not her sister screaming. There are all of these jabberjays who are having the ability to replicate the sounds that they are hearing from humans. So it's not her sister, but in the same time she's kind of thinking, well, where did this bird learn this sound? They could have just tortured my sister in order for her to scream like this, right? Towards the end of the games, there are only a couple of people left. Katniss is remembering what Haymitch said to her before the games started, because Katniss and Peta were asking him like, any advice that you have for us, because it was also a similar thing in the first book. And Haymitch said to them, remember who your enemies truly are, or something to that extent. And Katniss realizes that, oh, wait a second, our enemies are not actually the other tributes, the other players. Our enemy is in fact the Capitol. All of a sudden, Katniss and Beat are captured. They don't really know where they are. They are on this, I think in the book they are called hovercrafts, which I would imagine to be as like tiny spaceships or like bigger planes or something like that. And they are on this thing in the air. They don't really know what's happening until someone comes to them, and that someone is Haymitch. Haymitch is giving this whole explanation to Katniss that Haymitch and Plutarch were working on the deal to form this alliance with all of the other players in order for them to escape to District 13. Also, we are told that there are uprisings in the other districts as well. And this is on the very last page, but Gale is visiting Katniss and immediately she's asking about her family, her sister and her mother. And Gale is saying to her that like, oh yeah, they're alive, they're okay, but they're not in District 12. And she's very shocked at this information, like, what do you mean they're not in District 12? And Gale is just very matter-of-factly, oh, District 12 doesn't exist anymore. And this is how we end. I want to take a pause from reading because I feel like I kind of exaggerated today. I will try to start the last book, which is Mockingjay, and will update the vlog soon. It is still the same day. I have started reading Mockingjay and I have finished with the first part. And this was a lot to take in just because we are not in the same environment anymore. A lot of things are changing. We have some new characters, we have some new information to take in. So what happens in the beginning of Mockingjay? I don't know if I mentioned this previously when I talked about Catching Fire, but at the end of that book, Peeta is captured by the Capitol, and now Katniss obviously is trying to make sure that he's okay and make sure that whatever deal she's doing with these new leaders, she will get Peeta to safety somehow. The new setting of this book is District 13 that we thought it was destroyed until now, but it turns out that they're just living in the underground and they have this like whole system. It's very high tech. 12 was bombed by the Capitol. This was happening at the end of Catching Fire, and now all of the people that kind of managed to save themselves from District 12 were sent to District 13 with the help of Gale. Katniss's family, her mother and her sister, were also safe in the District 13 bunkers, but Peeta's family was not able, unfortunately, to make it out alive. Also, something that we find out in the beginning of this book, and it kind of happens off page, Cinna is dead. Cinna was the designer that prepared all of the looks that Katniss was seen in on TV, and they grew very close together. So it's kind of heartbreaking to know that Cinna died as well. Katniss went back to District 12, and when she visited her house, she found this white rose, and this is Snow's signature, so she's quite terrified that he was able to get into her house. Next up, we see Peeta on TV. He's doing this sort of interview and he's looking very well, but we'll later find out that that's probably because they filmed this right when he was captured. He's asking for a ceasefire, and because of this, he's kind of seen as a traitor by the refugees in District 13. We are presented with the whole schedule of the District 13 and how controlling they are, and it is hinted upon the fact that they are even more controlling than the Capitol. Katniss is very taken aback by this because she's kind of like, yeah, we escaped from the Capitol, but District 13 is like not far from the controlling things that the Capitol is doing, and she's not really sure who she can trust in this new environment. Prim, who is the little sister of Katniss, she is helping her sister to see that she has this leverage upon District 13, which is that they need her to become the Mockingjay, this symbol for, you know, the refugees and the revolution, the uprising that is happening at that moment. So when she's having a meeting with the heads of the District 13, she has very specific requests. She is asking for them to be able to keep her sister's cat, which I don't think I talked about, but her sister Prim is very attached to her cat and also her goat, but I think it was mentioned that the goat didn't make it out alive. She also requests that she's allowed to hunt together with Gale because this is something that they were doing ever since they were kids and they are missing this hunting aspect of their lives. She's also asking for Peeta to be part pardoned. So if he will be released from the capital, she just wants to make sure that the refugees and the rebellion will not target him, and she just wants to make sure that he is safe. And she's also adding upon this list of names the name of, I think her name is Anna, who is the love interest of this other guy who helped her in the second round of the Hunger Games. And her final request is, if she ever gets the chance, she wants to be the one that will kill Snow. They're a bit reluctant, obviously, to these requests, but they end up agreeing with Katniss. Also, she makes them do this whole like public event where the head of the District 13 is announcing this request publicly so that Katniss is sure that they will not betray her, because she still doesn't trust them. They are presenting Katniss with her uniform, and they are telling her that this was designed by Sina, and they also have his whole notebook where he made a lot of sketches for her outfits. And this is again another very emotional moment, because Katniss is reminded of the times when the two of them used to work together. They are going to the 8th district in order to film kind of like a propaganda message, because they figured out that Katniss cannot speak freely in the studio. It's not actually from her heart, so they have to go there. She's visiting this hospital with a lot of refugees and wounded people, and all of a sudden there's a bombing and the hospital is kind of collapsing. So they are able to film that, and they're kind of capitalizing on this tragic event that the capital orchestrated. Katniss is again questioning if the District 13 is actually helping her or they're just another version of the capital. The propaganda video turns out exactly what they wanted it to be, so they are able to broadcast it to all of the other districts. They were not able to hack into the capital's broadcasting system. There is another interview with Peeta on the TV, and he has a message for Katniss. He's asking her if she truly trusts the people that she's working with now, and this is making her question once more her loyalties. Also, she's questioning the fact that the people from District 13 are not telling her that this interview happened. She saw it on TV, but no one is talking to her about it, which is again very questionable on their part. They are out again in District number 12 in order to film another one of these videos, and they are in the woods where her and Gale used to hunt. They are meeting these mockingjays, and Katniss is teaching them a song that her father used to sing to her when she was a kid. Beat, who is the hacker guy that we have in this book, Beat managed to break into the broadcasting system of the capital, and in the same time when an interview between Snow and Peeta is live on TV, he is managing to insert clips that they filmed of Katniss with propaganda for the refugees and the uprising. Because the capital is not expecting this cyber attack, Snow is like, quick, like shut down everything. And because Beat is controlling this whole thing, they are able to see live on TV how Peeta is abused by the capital, and he eventually gets knocked down to the ground. This is everything that happens in the first part of Mockingjay. I will see if I will be able to read some more today, because I kind of feel like I need a break after reading this much. But yeah, I will try to update you either when I finish the second part or when I'm finishing Mockingjay completely. And I think I will save kind of my overall thoughts about this trilogy towards the end of this video. Also, I know there is a prequel to the whole series, which is called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I think it was released not that long ago, I think in 2020. I will not be reading that in this video. I want to read it at some point, but I feel like this is very long as is, and I will need a break after I finish with all of these books, so I will plan to read that in an upcoming reading vlog, but just know that it's not going to be in this one. Well, hello everyone. It is the next day and I have just finished Mockingjay, the final book in the original trilogy. I wanted to watch the first movie last night, but I just was so exhausted after yesterday that I just watched it for an hour and then fell asleep. But I was already able to spot some differences between the books and the movies, and that's to be expected because not everything can be adapted to a movie format, so they have to change some things. So when I last updated you, Peter was on TV and he was kind of hinting at the fact that there might be an attack on District 13, so they evacuated everyone in the bunkers that they had underneath, and just as everyone was settled in and the bunker was closed, the bombing started happening. So now they are kind of seeing Peter as not a traitor, but as someone who helped them save some lives. So that's a good thing. Now is the time when Katniss also realizes that when Snow asked her to convince him that she loves Peter, it was not because he wanted to keep this charade, but more so because he wanted Katniss to become in love with Peter so that he can use Peter as leverage against Katniss. After a couple of days after the bombing and everything kind of settled, they are going back up. They see all of the damage that was inflicted upon their base, and as they want to film Katniss having this other message of propaganda for the district and like everyone in Panem, she just breaks down crying because she realizes that like she's truly hopeless. She cannot save Peter, and that's heartbreaking to see because the president of the the president or the captain or something, I don't know their designation, but her name is Coin, and because Coin sees how taken aback Katniss is over everything that's happening, and more so because of Peeta, she is sending a rescue team to save Peeta from the hands of the capital and also to rescue some other people that were captured alongside Peeta. In the meantime, they are trying to create this message to distract Captain Snow's or President Snow's attention, and Katniss is talking about how she first met Peeta and then Finnick, who I don't know if I talked about Finnick previously, but Finnick is one of the other victors who participated in the 75th Hunger Games, and he became ally with Peeta and Katniss. He in fact saved Peeta when he almost died in the Hunger Games in Catching Fire. So he is this victor, and he opened up on the fact that Captain Snow was kind of using him as a sex slave, and he was selling him to the people that wanted to use his body, which is just so mind-boggling. And now it kind of makes sense why Finnick mentioned some things in, I think it was in Catching Fire. When they first meet, Katniss asks Finnick kind of jokingly like, oh, what do they pay you for this kind of services, right? And Finnick says that he is paid in secrets, and because all of the secrets that he gathered so far, he not only spills everything on the despicable people of the capital, but also on Captain Snow. And he is saying that Snow was able to maintain his power and be so much in control because he was poisoning every and any enemy that he has, and in order to convince the other people that he was not doing these things, he was drinking from the poison chalice or cup or whatever it was, but the antidote didn't work every time. So now he has this bloody mouth, and he is using the scent of white roses to mask the scent of blood that comes from his mouth. And also now it kind of makes sense why Katniss mentioned the fact that he kind of smells like blood when Snow first visited her back in the Victor's village in Catching Fire. This interview is obviously broadcasted all throughout Panem in the capital as well, and the rescue team manages to save Peeta. They are bringing him back in the District 13, and also they are able to save Annie, who is Finnick's love interest. As soon as Peeta is seeing Katniss, he is choking her, and it took some force to save Katniss from Peeta's hands, and we don't really know what's happening, but we are later told that the Capitol has used this technique on Peeta with the venom from the Tracker Jacker bees to instill these fake or false memories of him and Katniss in his mind so that he in fact could hate Katniss. And while the doctors are trying to reverse engineer what was happening with Peeta and to bring him back to normal, Katniss cannot obviously stay there to see this, so Katniss is going in District 2. In fact, she wants to go to the Capitol, but everyone is advising her that that's not wise at that specific time, so she goes in District 2 in order to help the refugees there. And we find out that in District 2 is where the captain is having their military base. They want to come up with a plan in order to destroy the military base, but the rebels there tried everything and they can't really save the people there and destroy just the base without the people in it. So Gale comes up with this idea to just block the entrances and create this avalanche with the bombs, and everyone will die in these remains of the military base. And Katniss is very triggered by this because this is how her dad died in the mines of District 12, so she doesn't want to go with this plan, but unfortunately because Quinn and everyone agrees to this is what they do. They block the entrances in the military base, and there are a lot of people there who die. Because District 2 is kind of the last district where the people are divided between the rebels and also the ones that are supporting Snow and the Capitol. Katniss goes live on TV in order to convince them that they should join the cause of the rebels, and in that crowd someone shoots Katniss. Next up, Finnick and Annie get married back in District 13, and Peeta is doing their wedding cake, and everyone was so impressed how Peeta could not concentrate on anything for a long period of time because he was in this state where he didn't know what was real and what was a hallucination at this point, but he was able to concentrate for multiple days in a row to create this cake because this is his passion as the son of the baker from District 12. Also, because he worked on this cake, he remembers the whole bread scene with Katniss when they were young. He wants to talk to her, and even though he's not fully recovered, he can kind of now see that some of his memories were altered by this venom that the Capitol used on him. Because Katniss was injured by this bullet, and also because she didn't really participate in the training sessions that District 13 offered, now the team of soldiers wants to attack the Capitol, and she's not allowed to go there because she doesn't have the training that's required for a soldier. So she has to participate in the trainings and everything in order to catch up with everyone, and her biggest problem is that she's not able to obey orders. So when they are testing her in the final exam, she kind of recognizes this and is able to pass the final test and is able to join the team that is going to attack the Capitol. They are in the Capitol now for quite some time, and Coin decides to send Peeta to join their team in the Capitol, which is crazy because Katniss now realizes that maybe Coin actually wants her dead. Now she's having all of these discussions with the people that join her in the army in the Capitol, and she soon realizes that, okay, if she goes through with her plan and she kills Snow, they will need a new leader for this brave new world, pun intended, that they want to create. She's not sure that she wants to support Coin because Coin resembles a lot Snow in her decisions, and if you're not on Coin's side, then you will be considered a traitor, an enemy for her. Also, now Haymitch is reminding Katniss that she shouldn't treat Peeta with such coldness and abrasiveness because this is not how Peeta would treat her if the roles were reversed. As the time goes by, Katniss and Gale are able to reconnect with Peeta and help him reconstruct all of his memories. While they are moving through the Capitol, their commander or general, or I don't know, someone who's just giving them orders, is very gravely injured and he dies. And as he dies, he says to Katniss says that she shouldn't trust anyone, she shouldn't turn back, she should kill Pita and do what she came to do. She's very conflicted by this because she doesn't know who to trust anymore. She doesn't know why this general or commander told her to kill Pita, and she's not really sure how she will go through with it because she obviously cannot kill Pita. It is later revealed that Katniss was in fact the second in command, so if something happens to the general and he dies, she will take the lead, and that's what she does. There is a broadcast on TV in the capital, and they're saying that the rebels who were trying to attack or infiltrate the capital were dead. So this is broadcasted everywhere in the capital, in the districts, and they have an advantage because now they're considered dead and they can move swiftly through the capital. But now also everyone in District 13 considers them dead, their families, their friends, and also they will not be able to get any help because of this. Also on TV, Snow said that he wants to retrieve Katniss's body, so as soon as they do that, they will realize that they are not in fact dead. Pita wants to unalive himself just because he thinks that with his presence he will endanger the rest of the people in their crew. And also later on, he is telling Katniss that he can see a pattern in his memories, the ones that are fake or not true, have this hazy aura around them. They're attacked by some moths who are these genetically altered animals. I think this time they were wolves, and Finnick dies. They're seeking the help of someone in the capital, and she looks like a tiger. She has a lot of plastic surgery, and there's this commentary on how the people in the capital are going very far with their looks and also their vanity, their obsession for youthness, and how they want to look and stuff like that. Gale and Pita, weirdly enough, connect over their love for Katniss, and they jokingly ask each other like, oh, I wonder who Katniss will choose, and Gale says she will choose the person she cannot live without. Gale is unfortunately captured by the capital. They are able to finally confront Snow, but he is guarded by all of these children of the capital because he's thinking that they will not be able to attack him if he's surrounded by children. And all of a sudden there are these silver parachutes that are coming down upon them, and they are bombs. They explode. A lot of children are unfortunately hurt. The rebel medics are helping the children, and between them is also Katniss's little sister Prim. And as they are trying to save as many children as possible, there is a second round of bombs, and Prim unfortunately doesn't make it out alive. Snow is found guilty and he is up for execution. Katniss finds Snow in his garden. As they are talking, Snow says to Katniss that he didn't expect for them to use these bombs on the children, and now everything kind of clicks in place and we realize that the bombs were not actually from the capital, but the bombs were sent from District 13. Katniss thinks at first that Snow is lying because she can't really wrap her mind around this fact that she was working for the people that killed her sister in the end. As she's going to what she thought it was a PR meeting, it was in fact a meeting with Quinn and all of these other victors who managed to survive. Think about Pita, Annie, Haymitch, and there were some other ones as well. Because Quinn doesn't really know what she wants to do with all of the people from the capital, she wants to host a new Hunger Games, but this time to participate in it all of the children of the important people from the capital. And this is the exact thing that they wanted to avoid all of this time, because in rebelling they were trying to create something new, something better, and now we as readers realize that we can't really trust Quinn with all of this power. They are doing a vote on whether or not they should do these new Hunger Games, and Pita votes no, Katniss and Haymitch vote yes, and because the majority wins, we find out that these new Hunger Games will in fact take place. At the execution, Katniss is obviously supposed to shoot Snow, but in fact she executes Coin. We also find out that Snow was probably crushed by the crowd at the execution, and also that Katniss's mom will not go back home with her in District 12 because she wants to help the hospital in District 4. Back in District 12, Peeta is reunited with Katniss and he wants to plant these evening primroses around her house in order to honor Prim. At this point in time, Katniss also throws away the white rose that Captain Snow left in her house. This is signifying the fact that she's not afraid of him anymore and that things are starting to change. We find out that Gale is helping the people of District 2. Buttercup, who is the cat that Primrose has or had, is also back home, and at the beginning, Katniss doesn't really want to stay near the cat just because she's reminded of her sister. The cat is helping Katniss to grieve and to just heal her trauma regarding her sister, and also she contacts her mom so that they can mourn together. In the epilogue, 10-15 years go by and Peeta and Katniss have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. This signifies their growth, the fact that they were able to help create this better world, this new world in which their kids can live a safer, a happier life than they had when they were kids. And this is kind of the end of the Hunger Games trilogy. I will not lie, when I read the epilogue, I cried for like 10 minutes because there's just something about these characters. I feel like we were seeing them for such a long time in these books and they were able to grow so much and to become better people in the context of this world of the Hunger Games. If you've made it this far in the video, honestly, kudos to you because I know this is going to be a long one. I have brewed myself a cup of coffee and I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on the Hunger Games. After finishing the trilogy, I just wanted to take a couple of days to just gather my thoughts and reflect on what I read because I truly believe that the Hunger Games were and are so popular because of their subtext of commentary on our society and the despicable things that are happening in our world. As you can see here, I have bought the physical copies of these books just because I like them so much and I wanted to have them. In the meantime, I also found out that there's another book in the Hunger Games world that is going to come out in 2025. Yes, in March 2025, and it is called Sunrise on the Reaping. It has a very short description on Goodreads. It says the phenomenal 5th book in the Hunger Games series. Sunrise on the Reaping revisits the world of Panem 24 years before the events of the Hunger Games, starting on the morning of the reaping of the 50th Hunger Games, also known as the Second Quarter Quell. So in this book, we are going to see Haymitch's Hunger Games that he won. So this is going to be specifically interesting because Haymitch is a very convoluted character. Like, we see his strategy and his way of thinking for the games through the lens of Katniss and Peeta, but we don't really see him how he would react in those specific situations. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see his point of view as well. After thinking upon the Hunger Games trilogy, some things that I was not that keen on, let's say, first of all, the love triangle. I get why it's there because this is YA and love triangles were all the rage in 2010, but not specifically something that I like. I think the only love triangle that I liked was in the Infernal Devices, and I only read the first book, so I'm still trying to see how that will pan out. But in these books specifically, I didn't enjoy it as much. Also, another thing is that I would have expected Katniss to end up with neither of them and for all of them to work on themselves, kind of as Gale did in the end of Mockingjay. I get why this choice was made, because obviously this is intended to be a quote-unquote happy ending, even though it is not that happy, because they went through a lot of things until they got there. So they lost a lot of people that they loved, and mentally they were just, you know, all over the place. So even though it's not like a fully happy ending, at least they got something out of it. But I would have liked to see each of them kind of on their own separate way and on their own separate path moving forward. The social commentary in these books. There are specific parts in the books where Suzanne Collins is inserting these thoughts of, oh, the people in the Capitol, they are very vain, they are obsessed with beauty and youth and plastic surgery, and they are dressing in this very ridiculous way. They are enjoying seeing people suffering in the Hunger Games, which is a commentary on our society and how we treat people in other parts of the world, how we act very entitled, and how we live these luxurious lifestyles. It is also a commentary on the fact that we as readers, we are enjoying reading about these Hunger Games, reading about all of these people getting murdered and being obliterated, and it's kind of the whole point of it, because the people in the Capitol also like to see the games, and you could argue that this is fiction and it's not actually real, which I agree with, but it's this whole like televised show aspect to it that is a commentary on how obsessed we are with reality TV and with seeing people not being murdered, but suffering and going through these very intense emotional things on TV for our enjoyment. So after all of these years, do I still think that the Hunger Games are relevant? Yes, because I don't think these books will be forgotten anytime soon just because how timeless they are. I feel like they will be considered a modern classic in like a couple of decades just because of how well they are done. They are very fast-paced. Every chapter or every other chapter is ending on a major cliffhanger. So if someone dies, if someone is gravely injured, if a massive thing is revealed, you best believe that those things are going to be at the end of the chapter, so that it keeps you hooked and it makes you read more and more and more until you finish the books. The structure is very well made for the audience that it's targeting, but honestly I feel like anyone could read this and enjoy this. I am very excited to see the movies and to read the prequel with the story of President Snow. I already edited the footage that you've seen previously in this video, and I keep saying Captain Snow. I don't know why, because he's President Snow, but anyway. That being said, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching and for listening to me ramble for more than an hour at this point. Let me know if you would like to see any other videos like this where I am reading books that were popular 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago and what those books could be. See you in the next one. Bye!